Hi there, Sara Naumann here from Studio SN with a card making tip. Today we're creating a fun card using Waffle Flower dies and stamps in combination with gelatos from Faber-Castell. So I'm going to set aside my stamps and my die and my gelato and bring in the card that I've been working on today. So you can see here I've got a fun spattered background. I've got this really fun little stamped banner that's also been colored in with gelatos. I've got stamping going on here top and bottom, and I have this really cool congrats die cut. And today I'm also going to share with you one of the very best die cutting adhesive tips that I learned. And this tip comes courtesy from Nina, who is the owner at Waffle Flower. So thank you, Nina. So let's get started with a piece of plain white matte cardstock and the snow cone gelato. Now, gelatos from Faber-Castell are great for coloring, and you can color directly onto your cardstock. You can also do some spattering and some painting by adding water directly to the gelato and making a mix. So here I've just scribbled a bit of it onto my craft sheet, and then I'm going to take some water and spritz that on there. I'll grab my stipple brush, make sure it's really loaded with watery gelato, and spatter this onto my piece of cardstock here. So I just spatter as much or as little as I want to. The more water you add to your puddle, the better. So then I just need to let this set aside to dry. I'm going to leave my puddle here because I'm going to need this for the next part, which is going to include some stamping. So here I'm going to bring in another smaller piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to do some stamping with my banner. Now if I bring in my stamp set, you can see down here I've got two really fun banners. I've got the open outline, and then I've got the shadow effect of this. So you can use these two in combination with one another or separately. So I'm using just the outline, and I've got it mounted up onto my clear acrylic block. I'm going to stamp it with VersaFine, and this is Onyx Black. I want to have a nice ink that is not going to interact with the water once I start using my watery gelato on top of this. So I do need to make sure that it's going to be an ink that will work well. So I'll just place this down here. Of course, since the stamps are clear and the block is too, I can see exactly where I'm going. And then what I'll do is use more of this watery gelato, maybe add a little bit more color here. And using an angle brush, I'm just going to pick up some of this color, get it a bit more watery, but still maintaining the intensity of the color as much as I can, and then simply paint this in. Now I'm not too worried about having it be filling right up into the lines here. I really just want to get a watercolor effect here with this watery gelato. If I want to, I can add a little bit more water and have a more fluid application. That's much better. And then the angle of the brush helps me to get into the angles of the little banner. So then I have my banner painted, and it's going to be a perfect match for my background. So then what I'll do is cut out this piece, just going up on the lines, and then I'll have a nice piece that looks like this. And then I can add my die cutting. So here's the trick that Nina taught me, and this was a great one. So I've got my cutting die here, the little congrats, and I've got a piece of black cardstock. Now those of you who are new to die cutting, let me just give you a few quick tips on die cutting. So here is the metal die. This is what's going to cut into my cardstock. It's raised on one side and it's smooth on the other side. Now it's really important that every time you do your die cutting, the raised side is facing into your cardstock or paper, whatever you're cutting into. If you have it facing up, you're not going to get a die cut, but you are going to cut into your plates on your embossing or your die cutting machine. So here's the trick that Nina taught me. You'll notice that the word and this little piece of cardstock are just about the same size. So I've got cardstock that's just a little bit bigger than this piece here. Then what I'm going to do is grab my roll of double-sided tape, and I'm going to pull off a length of this, and I'm just going to pop it down right in the center there. Now what I can do is flip this over, and then when I get set to die cut, I'm going to place this like this. So remember, the cutting side is facing into my cardstock, but I have my adhesive on the back, which means that when I run this through my die cutting machine, I will have a piece that's essentially a sticker. So let me bring in the one that I've got here. You can see it's die cut beautifully. And when I turn it over, you can see I've still got that liner on there, which means that all I need to do is use either my fingernail or even a pokey tool to remove that liner. And as you can see, then I basically have a sticker. And then when I get set to put this down, everything is secured. I've made sure to have the double-sided tape go to either end of the word, and then that way I don't have little bits kind of floating up at the top there. So let me bring back in my original card and talk about the process of putting it together. So you can see my pretty spattered background on here. I've got the banner raised up on foam tape, and then I have my die cut piece just placed on here. This cute little high five and you did it. These are both also from the same congrats stamp set from Waffle Flower. You can see those on there. And they're such a fun small size. They just work perfectly in combination with the die cuts. I've added some flat back pearls on here, a little bit of ribbon, mounted this up onto black and blue and black again before putting it onto the front of my card. Thank you so much for joining me for card making tips. This tip was from the TV show Create and Craft, and you can see more at createandcraft.com. You can also visit my website over at saranaumann.com. Thank you again so much for joining me. If you'd like to stay up to date on all of the card making tips videos, then please do subscribe to Studio SN on YouTube, and I will keep you updated with a new segment. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.